Okay, we are broadcasting. So, 5 o'clock on the nose, and I'm going to call the meeting to order. I believe everyone that we're expecting is here, so that's good. So we move on to the agenda. Do we have any changes to make to the agenda? Anyone?
I do not.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, agenda has been approved. So on to the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second? Any discussion? That all looks good? Okay. So, all in favor of approving the minutes as written, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So we're already down to the director's report.
All right, so I will go.
So Kevin, you're up.
I feel more prepared this month than last month, and actually got something written. So they have a two-page, actually a three-page thing, but the 2 pages of statistics. I handed out an updated one. Deb, I'm sorry that I did not. But this morning, Steve pointed out fines had been decided. We weren't reporting fines, and so there had been some payments for lost items, and so I inadvertently had put that money under fines instead of lost items, and so that is, I just wanted to point out that in that second row of boxes for the revenue, fines now for 2020 year-to-date gone and moved over to the correct column. So I also added on the back page, on the circulation, above that bottom table is then the actual circulation numbers, but I thought it would be much easier to read that visually by the graph there. So I put in the graph so that you can see that the total yearly circulation and then the average, monthly average.
Yep, and I also looked at that, and at least since I've been here, so for the first time, CDs aren't leading the list if you go all the way back to 2012. So ebooks have gone to the top, and we'll see if they stay there. So
in 2019, they were second
Yep.
most popular. I mean, this year with us being closed,
it's moving. It's obviously going to move that way.
it was natural that for the month of March, April, and May that that's what they used.
So CDs, more circulation than regular books.
Previous, yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So books on tape, is it called books on tape? Is that what you call it?
Audio books. I mean, mainly.
Why did I not realize that before? That surprises me, and it's been there for all along. But that surprises me. Ebooks doesn't surprise me as much for some reason. I guess because I'm an ebook user. But
and then the other thing that I will just then on my written report that's after the next page, the next sheet, I will just amend item number 4. I met today with city administrator, city attorney, HR, and we reviewed the updated job description, and it was approved. And so, pending a couple of signatures, then we'll be able to advertise for the new adult services.
Okay. Has the window been fixed on number 1?
No.
Okay.
That is tempered glass, and so that takes about 2 weeks or so. They said to that get in from the time it's ordered.
Okay. Anything else from the director's written report there? Haven't heard from the big grant?
No, I emailed them this afternoon. I emailed the South Dakota Humanities Council asking for an update. So if or when I get a response, I can then forward that out to the board to let you all know what response I received.
On number 5, Kevin, do we do exit interviews on part-time employees or full-time? Do we know why she resigned, or does the library know why, I guess?
Well, the part-time employees, Sarah and Jim and Stacy, all had been calling in and asking when they would be able to come back to work. And I think, when she heard after August that it was going to be extended another month, I don't think she didn't say for certain, but it seemed like she didn't want to just kind of wait another month. But yet she said, well, if there's a position open up, a part-time position opens up in the future, I would like to be able to apply for it and be considered for it. So I don't know, though, if her situation, she felt she needs to go look for a different job, part-time job, or what. She did not say that.
Oh.
So that's my report.
Okay. So, do I have any motion to approve the director's report?
I'll make that motion.
Second. Any more discussion on that or questions for Kevin? Okay, we approve the director's report. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay, financial report.
Okay. So the first page of the financials report is the monthly expenditures report. So similar to what we looked at last month, but it's a month further down the road. So nothing, sticks out to me there. So, and then following that is just the general ledger detail versus budget for the month of what was spent out of each account. And then I'm sorry. I just noticed that I didn't include the bank statement. I scanned it, but I didn't then upload it. I'm sorry. I will forward that out to everybody tomorrow.
Is our money still in the bank?
Well, if you, I don't know. After last night, I may just leave town. No, it's still there.
Okay.
It takes 2 signatures,
right.
so Ann would have to find out too, or Denny. So they're protecting the money. So I apologize for that. I scanned it because it was requested to be included, and then I didn't upload it and include it. So I will forward that tomorrow.
Anything unusual about that? About any idea about where we're at on balance on that?
It's still above 99,000.
Okay. And anything about these financial reports that are unusual, or anyone have any questions about them?
My only questions on them are answered when we talk about the reopening and staffing stuff, and I think
Okay.
Kevin analyzed it from that standpoint. We can talk about that then.
All right. So that's the financial report and approval of bills. Can I have a motion to accept that?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Are you not
there
done?
were no bills. I mean, we have no bills.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, for our internal bills.
Right.
Well, we paid the ones that we talked about last
Yeah, and there
week,
have been no new
last
bills.
month, I mean, yeah, nothing new. Okay. So, do I have a motion to
I'll move
approve?
approval of the financial report
Have
and
a-
approval of bills.
Do you have a second?
Second.
I think we've had discussion, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Committee reports, are there any? We don't really have committees, do we? We haven't had committees since I've been on the board, let's put it that way. So, any communications and correspondence?
I had none.
Okay. Any unfinished business? Okay. New business. First one, action to approve proposal to subscribe to newspaper archive database. And you did a kind of a snapshot, it looks like, of the use over the last month.
Yeah, so you remember last month, I introduced the newspaper archive database to you all, gave you a demonstration of it, and hopefully the information I sent out to you about how to create your own account during the trial worked. And so for the time period of August 14th, from when it started, or a little after it started till last week, we've had 15 different people actually use it, and you can see the number of searches that were actually conducted. So 124 searches just in a few week time period. The number of pages that were viewed, and and how many pages from our state, from South Dakota. Now, so what I'm again proposing and asking the board to consider is that we subscribe to this database. We would just subscribe to the Central U.S. collection, which consists of the states South Dakota, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, North Dakota, and Oklahoma. But Mitchell paper is in that from the 1980s, or 1880s, I'm sorry, when Mitchell first had a paper till about 1977. The representative of the database company said that they are offering currently to new subscribers that they will digitize our microfilm, which could be added to this. And so we have the Mitchell paper, in microfilm from 77 up through 2019. So we would be able to, as I think I said this last month, but be able to get all of the Mitchell paper up to 2020, up to 2019 included in this database, which would be a good thing. But we would have to negotiate with Forum Communication or Forum Communications to make sure we get their permission from a copyright perspective. No.
How long would did it say how long it would take to digitize?
They did not say how long. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, depending but and we also have a few rolls of microfilm from the 19 teens to 20s of an Ethan newspaper and of a Hanson County, Alexandria newspaper. So those are out of copyright. They're in the public domain, so we wouldn't have to worry. And so those could be included in the database as well for our users to search. And so, I'm proposing that this would help offset the work that has previously been done over the years of, cutting out obituaries and pasting them to 3x5 index cards. If people want to search for a database, or an obituary of somebody, or an article of their relative, or whatever, they would be able to do that. And the amount of money that would be spending per year would be way less than probably the amount we spent in staff time on salaries, on organizing all of that.
And
So,
how much was it again?
1,082.
Any questions or more discussion? I mean, I'm in favor of it personally, but is that the same every year?
They have, I know that they've increased their prices. And I know that Dakota Wesleyan subscribed to this when I was there, subscribed to it for a number of years. For a number of years, we were grandfathered into the original pricing that we got. And so for less than $1,000, we got the entire database of all the states and international newspapers. And this year, for whatever reason, they decided that they were going to standardize all of their pricing and no longer honor those grandfathered in institutions. So if Dakota Wesleyan would have continued with this database, the full database, it would have gone up to over $5,000. So, but the yearly prices increases that we experienced were probably less than 5%.
I was just curious, I figured it would, I know sometimes they give you a 3-year guarantee of the same
Yeah.
or something.
I mean, I could certainly ask for that,
Oh,
but
I think $1,000
that's,
is a pretty good price.
I agree. Okay, well, any other discussion or questions?
Just point of clarification, so are we, as the trustees, paying for this 1,082, or is it coming out of the line item in our current?
well, I'm bringing it to the trustees for the trustees to pay for it. I mean, there's
Okay.
nothing in
We didn't, no budget,
there's nothing in
where
the
it fits
city
or
budget.
anything else in
Yeah.
the city budget? Okay,
Yeah.
that's what, wanted to make
And,
sure.
and quite honestly, since I started, the budgeting process, had already been.
Yep.
So
Yep. And
we
so
would,
as a-
at
At least as the first year,
it
the
would
trustees
be,
will do it,
and
we'll-
maybe the second year.
Yep, because the budget
and then
2021
we
is already
could-
there. And then
What we could think about doing is, we have subscriptions for newspapers. Instead of getting those subscriptions, you can maybe utilize the funds for this
Database.
instead. if you
transition
don't-
that over,
Right.
over time.
Yeah. The thing with our current subscriptions to newspapers are, those would not be in here, so what people
Correct.
like to read, on the current day-to-day,
Yeah.
they wouldn't be able to get here. But, I mean, we could look at something within subscriptions, see if we could rearrange some funds.
But for now, it's coming to the trustees.
That's what I'm
Okay.
requesting.
And I'll make that motion to approve this at $1,082 per year.
Do I have a second?
Second it.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now I have a little story
Thank
to
you.
tell you about the newspaper archive trial. I went on, looked at my name, couldn't find anything because I didn't put my maiden name. Then I went in under my husband's name and found something in the Huron paper from some athletics that he was in high school. Ha, ha, ha. We laughed about it. We showed it to a friend. Okay, right next is another school. We find his name. He's like, well, this friend was also on the team. We find his name. Well, she was a cheerleader. Her picture's on that page. So on one page of the Huron Daily Plainsman, we saw 4 of our really good friends are now in all the athletics and cheerleading they were doing. And we just thought that was great.
And you could have printed them off and kept them then to
I know.
pass on to your children.
Well, my husband had never seen it because when he was growing up, it was actually 3 different schools. It was Clark and Huron and Iroquois. And they never got the Huron paper. They got the Watertown paper, I guess. So anyway, I just thought that was quite fun. All right, so move on. Okay, action to approve funding request for children's programming. So there's 3 of them here. As is Jean. So I assume that go.
Yeah,
go with it,
I'll
Kevin.
start and then I'll let fill in any details, but there are 3 different proposals for children's programming. One is the story walk, and that would be a minimal amount. And then also the Read for the Record, which is a statewide or nationwide program that we are participating in. And then the kind of rewards that we have typically done, the 1,000 books before kindergarten program, and we have some people who have already finished that or are waiting for their reward. And then summer reading program. In this, I actually have a little amendment to the request here. We also identified 2 other students, and so it would be a total of 9 students who far surpassed. We had a couple middle school students too who read over 10,000 pages, and so we would like to reward them with a $15 gift certificate to Reader's Den so they could buy their own book, whatever book they would want to. So Jean, please.
I think you have to come to the podium and grab the microphone. Oh, wow, okay. He was coming. Okay. Okay, can you hear me all right? All right. As far as the story walk, this is something that I've never attempted before, but on different listservs that I'm on nationally, this is something that's worked very well with communities even prior to COVID. The book that I'd like to put in store windows, and I'm not praying for an early winter, but it's called Snowmen at Halloween. And so what we would do is we would buy 2 copies of the book, and therefore each participating business would have 1 2-page spread in their window, and then we would border it with orange paper to give it a little bit of pop. And then next to it there would be a smaller piece of paper that would give some information about the library, our current COVID hours. I mean, there are people who continually stop me, saying, "Are you open? Are you open?" And so I think this is one way that we can continue to let people know that we are still active, in our community. And then what I think is is great about it is it does help our Main Street businesses. Those who choose to be part of it may choose to do on their own another promotion, saying, "Oh, while you're here, come on in," or whatever. But it gives them an opportunity to show that they are also, out there during these difficult times. Now, I can have as many as 15 businesses. If a few more ask to participate, I can stretch it a little bit and we can make it work. But if we have a large number of businesses that would ask to participate, rather than trying to do 2 at the same time, my first time trying this, I would much rather let those businesses have first dibs come spring. And then my plan for spring is, whereas this would include businesses from, Railroad to 5th Avenue, spring would be 5th Avenue and North. And I just think it's a great way to bring the library to the people. This is something that even, like I mentioned before COVID, there's been a lot of discussion. If people aren't coming to the library, how can we bring the library to people? And so this is part of a movement, nationwide that people have been talking about. So yes, we're being forced to jump, forward with 2 feet, and I think it's kind of exciting. Any questions? Anything that you're wondering about or ideas?
I think it's really cool.
Okay, all right. And
So when I start, I'll know where the next one is it'll tell me at the first one?
Exactly, and I think we're going to have 2 ways to do this. One, I plan to make a map that will be available at the library as well as at the businesses, that if people choose to go inside and would like a map, or we can post it there. But then also, in addition to that, because not everybody enjoys reading maps, some would prefer just to have, where do I go next? And so the other thing that I would plan to have there is to read on, go to, and then the name of the business and the address and an arrow, and then we go from there. And what I think would be fun too, and I know there are families who would do this without prompting, they may take pictures of their kids in front of these businesses, post them, and then that gives more business to those, or more exposure to those businesses as well as to the library. So I think it's a gift that potentially can keep on giving, and it's worth a try, and we'll see where it goes from there.
And so Jean, included in your packet is a sample letter that Jean drafted that we would send to the businesses. We would also send this or something very similar to Main Street and Beyond to let them know that we are proposing this and we're going to be working with businesses.
Mhm.
Also, Main Street will help promote it in the Facebook page.
Okay, wonderful.
What will publish it there.
And time, when do you, before the snow flies, obviously?
Yes.
So
Mhm.
between now and the middle of October?
Yes, with the approval of the board, my plans are to get these letters to the businesses, as soon as possible, and for those that have emails, to push it out there as soon as I can. Ideally, I'd love to have the pages posted. What is the Monday? Is it October 7th? It's whatever that first. My goal would be for the Monday of that first full week of October, and that way, if something would go wrong, still any time that first week would give people a chance to participate throughout the entire month.
With it being a holiday.
It's the 5th, okay, right, okay. So my goal is the 5th, but I'd like the allowance that, it during that first week would I think would serve the same purpose.
Because it could start on any day, I mean.
Right.
Get out there, but.
Exactly.
Okay.
Mhm. And I think that's another nice thing about this. It doesn't have a specific beginning, and that families can do it at their own pace as well.
With the Halloween theme of the book, it has an end date.
They, in my...
But potentially it could be out there for almost the whole month of October.
Yeah. Mhm. Mhm.
You wanted to do that, right?
Right. Mhm. That would be my goal. And with the next, and then the spring date being a similar time span as well, a 3.5 week, and whether we have that around Easter or if we look at it as just the month of April, something that would be definitely a spring approach, and then to find something a little more uplifting than snow, even though we all know what snow can do in April here. Yes, it should be a snow theme.
Oh, I love that idea.
This would be my plan, is to provide, what I usually do when I have an event coming up is I write up a small news release, then I call the stations and I say, may I send you a news release? And most of the time they just say sure. And so that would be my plan, and I would also send a news release to the newspaper with hopes that they also would publicize it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you want to go on to the next?
Okay, the read for the record?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, this is something that we have participated in, I believe for the last 2 years. This is a global event that the South Dakota Library Association also encourages us to participate in. And in the past, what I've done is when I know what that book is going to be, I register for it, send a screenshot to South Dakota Library Association, and then they put me on the list to receive a free book. And then I read that book, or I order one for our collection as well in a hardbound. And then whatever that date is, I use it for story time, record that number, and send it to the organization. This year, COVID has opened our eyes to what reading online can do through whether it be, Facebook Live or any number of other things that a person could try. And so my goal this year, is, since we can't have story time physically, to publicize this, well in advance, to say, where I'm going to be reading this book Thursday the 29th at 10:30 and at 12:30. And I may also read it in the afternoon as well, looking at an after-school time. That way our numbers can be higher to contribute to this global event. As Kevin and I were talking, however, one of the ideas was possibly to order extra copies, and through Read for the Record, they have rights to a paperback edition that won't be available to the public till probably 8 or 9 months down the road. And we could purchase a number of copies from them, whether it be 5 or 10. Initially we thought 10 in English and 1 in Spanish. And what we could do on that Read for the Record day is ask people to respond in one way or another, on our Facebook, page, whether it be who was your favorite character, what was your favorite part, what illustration jumped out at you. Basically to encourage them to interact with what we've read, as well as to show us that they've actually been listening. And if only 10 people respond, well, we'll have enough books to give to them. If we have more, and I foresee that we certainly could, then perhaps those names could be placed into a drawing for those books, and that way it wouldn't be like only the first, to respond would get it, and that way people would have an equal opportunity. Being that we're in a situation where we can't have, due to COVID, the traditional events, I think this would be one more way of saying to the community, we exist, we care about your kids. Here is something that you can take part in with the library, even though you may not feel comfortable coming. That being said, we do have a fair number of families who do come, and by having the book in our collection, we can also certainly invite them to come and participate also. In an email that I received this week, there was some information from the organization with some handouts, some activities that one could do, and so I'll have to take a good look at them, but it might even be something where I could put together some additional craft bags or handouts and tell people they can come to the library to pick these up, or with curbside, call and we'll rent it out to your car. And we can also provide participation in that way. And I can reach out to the schools as well to let them know that this is what we're doing, or what we plan to do, sorry.
Sounds like another great program, Jeannie.
Okay. All right. And be the 29th, which is a Thursday, so it kind of collides with what would normally be my Halloween story time, but that's okay. I can find other ways to do that. But I think this will work well. The book, one of the other pluses of this book is it does, I know the word diversity is sometimes overused, but it does present people in the illustrations that have, skin colors that are different than Northern European. And I think it's another way, and I guess I've been consciously trying to do this with my ordering to show visually, a broad representation of our community. Mm-hmm. So any questions about that? Ideas?
I have a question, for the board. What do you think of the idea then of having some available to give out to people who participate, and what do you think of the numbers proposed?
Wow.
What did you say?
Whatever Dean thinks.
Just back how I can push books on people.
Here's the idea that I had, and if you did an afternoon reading too, like a 3:30 one or whatever, mm-hmm. I don't, if anybody responds in the morning, I'd have like 5, 5, and 5, and if only 5 respond in the morning, then that's theirs. If you have 5 books for the second one and there's mm-hmm. 10 people, then they just get drawn, Or you could have them all respond, and if, I was thinking 15 books, and if you don't have 15 respond with all 3 of them, then everybody gets one.
Sure, yeah.
But I,
Mhm.
you know, kind of, that's how I thought, divided up, and I was thinking, yeah, do an afternoon one.
Yeah, I
All right,
like
we
that.
could try that,
Yeah.
yeah.
After school.
I have 5 books to hand out, or some participation award, and if it's the
Mhm.
book,
Mhm.
great.
Yeah, and I would have other participation prizes. You know, I have small prizes left over from summer reading that you know, could certainly fill the bill too. And so,
That
we could
was
do
what I
that.
thought when you
Yeah.
said maybe a 3rd one. And
Yeah. The only thing that will be different is the publisher of this book is Candlewick Publishing, and they are extremely conservative about online readings, whereas other publishers are like, go for it, no problem. Candlewick is extremely strict, and in fact, I have not read any Candlewick books. They are the highest caliber of quality of books, I may add. So what we're allowed to do with this publisher is we can read it live, but we have to immediately take it off. We can't let it sit there like we do with our other books. And so that will be part of the publicity to say this is different. And that actually, I think, is good too. You know, it mixes it up a little bit.
live reading only.
Live reading only, yeah. Don't rely on, you know, pulling it up for bedtime as many of our families do. This is going to be different. So.
That was just my idea. Somebody else.
I'm agreeing with Diana. I mean, I think that's a great suggestion, but at your discretion, I would say, Jean.
Okay, all right,
You know.
okay.
I think it might be easier though to put all the names in, because you might have more, a different time.
Yeah.
To even it out, so whoever responds gets the name in and they draw, they get drawn.
That may cause, if, I can't imagine somebody feeling disgruntled, but we'd be able to work proactively to prevent a disgruntlement.
Great.
You might be someone that says, well, I can't come and watch in the morning, but I can, you know.
And no fair, there were 20 people there, and yeah. No fair. Okay, any other ideas or concerns or?
Any other comments about the 3rd item, which was the award request? Just, I mean, that looks pretty straightforward and.
And one thing, Jean told me that last year, previously, Jackie just had Jean order these 1,000 books before kindergarten prize books just out of the library budget when she put in a children's book order, and we discussed that, and I just didn't think that was right, that we were taking them, city dollars and buying the prize books. I think the city dollars should be used to buy books that are in the library that everybody can check out. So that's why this is coming here now.
So the requests for awards are just the prizes for the programming that you did this summer. Correct?
Well, and these are, yeah, and the 1,000 books before kindergarten is ongoing, because, that's an ongoing.
Yeah, that's an ongoing, when they read the 1,000 books, they get to choose a book for me to order. Yeah.
Okay.
The only question that I have with this is where we would do the ordering. This might be an opportunity for us to give Reader's Den the business for the books that we use for prizes, rather than going to the big Baker and Taylor. And the same thing, well, like similar with the summer reading program, if we do the gift certificates, I think it might be a nice way to extend to them, and especially since with the story walk, they're not part of that not being a Main Street. And then if I may jump back to that story walk, we need to purchase 2 copies of Snowmen for Halloween, and it might be a nice gesture to purchase those books from Reader's Den.
And as part of the story walk, you could say the full book is available at Reader's Den.
Yeah,
part of the write-up.
Right. And I think that would be a nice way to include them in this too. They've, in many ways through the years.
Please don't steal the pages out of the window, go to the Reader's Den and buy
Yes, I love it.
And Reader's Den may need to know that they may need to order a couple
Right,
more copies.
yes,
of that,
thank
that,
you, yeah, to have those
a
ready.
reminder that
Okay.
we're promoting this book and we're saying it's going to be available, so.
Okay. Mhm.
Because you won't want to really, families won't really want to order that necessarily, because once Halloween's over, the interest in it is kind of over, so.
Right,
they
you're
would want
right.
to have them on hand.
It will be one of those, I think, spontaneous purchases,
Right.
like, let's go and get the real
Right.
one. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, that's a great idea. Thanks, Ann.
So the overall request here is for the story walk, $35 for 2 copies for those books that we would need to destroy, sorry. For the read for the record, as proposed by Jean, that would be 120, but if we would go 15 books to give away, that'd be an additional $10 per book. So 120 to $150. And then for the awards, currently there are 3 children waiting for the prize who have completed the 1,000 books before kindergarten, so that would be $60. And then for the 9 instead of 7 students who we identified who went above and beyond expectations for the summer reading, that would be $135 in gift certificates too.
And if I may add, I had one student turn something in this week who is also a far and beyond. So that number may be 8 from the kids section.
So then 10.
So what does that all add up? Our mental math isn't very quick right now.
150 plus 60 plus 20 plus 35, 365, 400. And again, the awards for the 1,000 books before kindergarten, is an ongoing thing. Yeah, we may have one a month or something.
Yeah, usually it averages out between maybe 7 to 10 a year.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, can I get a motion? Someone can word this however they want to.
I move to give Jean $450 with her best discretion in consultation with the head librarian.
All right.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay, that passed.
Well, thank you very much, and I love the way you worded that. I think you're the writer. Okay, well, thanks very much.
Thank you, Jean.
Thanks.
Okay, the next thing is as requested last month, at last month's meeting, yes, you requested a proposal for recalling our part-time employees and expanding our hours, and so the next 2 pages is that, and I have a number of issues for consideration, and then at the bottom of the first page there, so the proposal is until we have all of the full-time positions filled, and we're moving forward on that, that we would keep our current hours of operation, and then after the full-time positions are filled, we would expand 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday. So we would be having 2 extra hours each weekday. So, and I know I've had people personally ask me, why can't you be open? Please be open after 5 o'clock. I get off of work at 5, and I'd like to come to the library. Every time I take some interlibrary loan books to the post office, the clerk there asks me, "Are you open after 5 today?" And then on Saturdays, that would be 10 to 6 as well. And so we would be proposing that then through the end of the year. And we would also then be recalling our current remaining 2 part-time staff, Jim and Stacy, back, but not, they worked anywhere between 15 to 19 hours, but I'm proposing 9 to 10 hours a week for them to help, get some things done, allow some processing and some other work, I'm finding that some of the extra duties, I've been doing another loan myself, and having to open boxes of books that come in and check against the packing slip, and I'm also kind of expensive to be doing that, and so and it keeps me from then doing some of the planning that I want to get done, and so that would also be helpful. So, and then as Steve alluded to, that last paragraph, I gave some analysis there, but I think we will certainly we are salary-wise, I think we are okay with making up the payout amounts for the 2 retirements, and there'll be certainly enough in the part-time budget there should be money left over at the end of the year there. Any questions?
Well, I appreciate your analysis of the value of your hours. So that part of it, I totally agree. If you're doing things that you should be spending your time being a director, and I appreciate that you understand that. So that's one comment I have. I don't know, any other discussion? Yeah, sounds very thorough. If we go, so the Saturdays when we can expand our hours to the next step, also expanding the Saturdays, is that going to be an issue with the current full-time staff?
Well, no, they're already working
some
8
Saturdays,
hours
right?
on Saturday. When
Okay.
they work on Saturday, they work an 8-hour shift.
Okay.
But we're only open 10 to
4.
4. So I mean,
Okay.
they're getting other work done.
Okay.
I mean, they're normal, or they're not helping patrons type of work done. But the reason that we still would want a part-time person there from 11 to 2 is just to help cover. We need to have 2 people at the circulation desk all
Yep.
the time, and so to cover lunch hours when people are gone.
Sure.
And so then having a part-time person there over the lunch hours then would free up a full-time person to not have to work 3 Saturdays a month.
And have you been in touch with the part-timers? Are they willing to come back at your proposal?
They are willing to come back. They've asked me. I haven't specifically told them that it would be most likely 2 Saturdays a month, but I mean, both of them have contacted me several times wanting to come back. So.
Okay. Well, I think it looks very thorough. I personally don't have any questions.
28th pay period?
Yeah, that would be the end of the month.
End of this month?
And Jim actually called me Friday or yesterday, talked to me, and he's going to be on vacation. He said, so he really wouldn't be able to want to start work until October 1st, which would be later in that week.
But
so that may, I think that's actually would be the second week of a pay period, but I mean, there.
You have to start at the beginning of a pay period.
Help with that.
It's easier for the finance office.
Okay.
well,
So we could.
He wouldn't have to, I mean, he would be in that pay period.
Right, but
So
To make
city pays on the 11th and the 25th, right? And we get
Yep.
paid a week in arrears,
Yep.
so
the first would be the 21st of that pay period, the 21st. Otherwise, you have to wait till the 5th.
Of October.
Right.
Okay, so I'll change that to October.
So you want to do that?
For,
Because
That's the
we
request.
missed it, otherwise we would have had to start
Yeah.
already next week, and we will.
Yeah, that's the request from finance office, because then they have to change because some of them get South Dakota retirement, some don't, and you have to change that, and their benefits and
so-
stuff.
So starting October 5th, we'll be open from 10 till 6 Monday.
well, no, I was I was holding off on expanding the hours until we get all of our full-time positions
Oh.
filled.
But you want to bring on the part-time.
Part-time people and keep current hours.
Yeah, and so I'm thinking that it could be, how long do we have to advertise for the position? 2 weeks. And then there'll be the interview process and,
So we'll,
So we can't bring the part-time back until October.
October 5th.
yeah, but then it would probably be November-ish when we're looking at expanding the hours.
So,
I'm sorry if that was.
yep, so I'll move to bring back the part-time people starting October 5th, and for you to report back to us at the October meeting, the status of advertising for employment and timing for hours update
Okay.
going forward. Does that cover
Mhm.
what we have in there, I think, right?
I think so. All right, so Steve had that as as the motion. Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thanks, Jim.
Okay.
Yeah, get those back in and see how your
So
routine
when do
changes.
we anticipate the new, the position being advertised? Am I saying that right?
Well, again, Liz told me that she needs to get 2 signatures, the mayor's.
Okay,
and
we're close.
Stephanie's,
Yeah,
and she was
okay.
going to try to get Stephanie's today.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm sure yet this week she'll get those signatures, and either yet this week or next week the ad will go out.
Okay.
For patrons wanting it open later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
rather than 10 to 6, be open from noon to 8. Throwing it out there, I don't know, if they have a cost.
We will look at that. Would changing those hours need board approval? Yeah. So could we look at that and bring it back to?
For patrons, do you guys have numbers from doors before the coronavirus?
No.
Like,
We don't
I
have,
thought we need those door counters.
we don't have door count. We don't have
Well,
people
your
count.
staff is experiencing, like, they
Yeah.
probably have an idea of when the high volume.
Yeah.
were. When?
3 to 4.
3 to 4 in the morning. Yeah. What about at 10 in the morning from 10 until noon?
We have many of our elderly people prefer to come in
You're on YouTube.
Okay. What I have noticed is many of our elderly patrons like coming in the morning, and it's part of their routine, and many of them nap in the afternoon. So we see different lulls throughout the day.
And I think for hours-wise, if we were going to move the clock, maybe moving to our more traditional hours where we close at 6, giving that opportunity for school children to come in after school, but maybe opening around 11 and going to like 5:30 would be an option, I think, but we can also discuss that. So,
Bring that back.
So, okay. That'll be part of the proposal next month. Okay, so I thought, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
At
so
the-
we're
at
on
the-
to review of the COVID policies,
Okay.
which is kind of what we jumped to anyway, so.
Yeah, I mean, I thought with that discussion of bringing part-time people back, I thought it would just be a good time, and I included then in the packet, the policies that you all approved with phase 2 limited opening, and, I wanted to say that when we decide to open with longer hours, we would insert in here a phase 3, expanded opening hours.
That's not in here, and you've been thinking about it.
No,
since you-
yeah, I mean,
since you
that
brought
would,
up
yeah.
expanded. So what other things are you, that changes that would be made in phase 3?
Well, I can tell you,
I mean, just in general, I don't need.
in general, I can tell you that since I started, my wife has been arguing with me to request the board require masks in the library, and I don't know that you all would do that. She sees patients, and she's just fearful of seeing more patients.
We haven't done a motion on the part-time employee staff yet?
Yes.
Oh, we just.
Oh, we did,
Yes,
okay.
Steve.
Okay, so I missed that then, sorry.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You did it.
And he seconded.
Okay, so I just didn't hear the vote is what I was thinking of.
Oh,
Okay,
I think
sorry.
we did a vote.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I missed that.
Okay.
I'm trying to follow along here. Catching
But I guess my suggestion would be under patron guidelines, the second bullet, if we just would say patrons are expected, that is not requiring, but that is a little stronger than patrons are encouraged. And I know that before the school year started, that was the language that Sioux Falls School District they started with. They were going to encourage students and staff to wear masks, and then they started saying that, well, they were going to expect them to, but so I present that to you for your consideration.
And is this still considered phase 2, what you're talking
Yeah,
about right now? Okay.
the phase 3 would be, I mean, once we get, as we talked, once we, get the full-time positions filled, then I think we can, I'll bring that next month's
Okay,
meeting.
so you've been kind of thinking about that. so.
Yeah. So, that was my kind of. Yeah.
Right, so modify
Yeah,
phase 2.
just modify it to, we expect to, I mean, if I don't know what you think of that, and I have my personal issues to deal with.
So would we have some available, or just, they would have to provide their own?
We have masks available now.
Okay, you do.
If somebody comes in and forgets the mask, so we have every day people, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot a mask. And
You do the
probably
disposable, or-
80% of people now are coming in with masks.
I'm certainly in favor of that. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that? The masks that you have now, are they cloth or are they disposable?
Disposable like you're wearing.
And you have a supply that you're okay with that? And then the rest of phase 2, you don't see any changes? Will you have to change some signage or anything by the door?
Yeah, that would be the one thing we would change the signage that would just say patrons are expected
Okay.
to wear face masks in the library.
Okay.
And then next month, most likely, we'd be looking at some type of change in hours, and so in a phase 3.
Okay.
And so then that signage would be changed after next month's meeting.
Okay. So our discussion has centered on just changing the one word basically under patron guidelines from encourage to expectation. Can I have a motion for that? Second?
Okay.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay, passes. The technology report, looks like this is just an information kind of
Yeah,
thing.
this is the information thing. If you recall, before we applied for the The CARES Act grant through the South Dakota Humanities Council, we applied for a grant, technology grant from the state library, and that was just kind of happening when I started, and Zach was taking the lead on developing that, and reading through the guidelines that the state library had. He discovered that they expected libraries, when they ask for grant funding from the state library, that they submit a technology plan. And we don't have a separate technology plan for the library. There's a technology plan for the city, and the library is mentioned. And so we have started working on it. So Zach, do you want to explain to them what you've done?
So this report just serves as the basis for us to start building the technology plan, planning objectives and goals for potentially 3 to 5 years, because that is what is recommended for a strategic plan like this. So the information that's in here just generally gives where we're at right now. So I'm going to start out with, we call it a SWOT. It's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Pretty much what I did is I took a look at our current technology infrastructure while I was doing inventory to figure out where we're doing really well at. So like having 19 public access computers for the public during general, when we're open generally, not during COVID time, but also having access to the databases that we get through the South Dakota State Library. The weaknesses are kind of where we need improvement, but they can also serve as an opportunity. So you might notice off the top one, we have we do not offer wireless printing in the building to our patrons, but because we don't have any current contracts for that, that provides us with an opportunity to fill that gap with a contract with, whether it be our current company or through a service such as the computer booking, because it is some programs and some companies offer that as part of their package when we implement a computer booking system. But the other thing too, as you guys mentioned in the director's report, the openness to moving to ebooks. With that, I hadn't really looked at the numbers. Seeing the numbers much higher shows that this is a trend that we need to capitalize on and continue with. So I included in the technology trends a set of subscription services that I have had several patron questions about over the past couple of months. Hoopla, Canopy, Mango, and Lynda are some of them that I have seen some libraries adopt. I know that Lynda being especially good for career skills with the current situation for some of our patrons, I think that would be a good service for us to offer, and that's why I mentioned it. But as we continue forward with potentially what could be quite some time for this, having a much larger ebook selection for our patrons available will be important. And I don't know if Kevin has mentioned it, but the purchase of RB Digital by Overdrive could provide some opportunities for us in the future. We haven't gotten much information on what that will look like in the future from what I understand. But I wanted to highlight something rather important in the threats section, and it's the only one that is in there. All of our computers, at least the central processing unit in all of them, are quite old. Some are as old as 2011, and those are some of our staff computers. And I don't know if any of you remember, around 2018, Google discovered a massive security flaw with processors produced prior to that, going back about 20 years. And 93% of our computers are currently vulnerable to that threat. But I want to add a little bit of a note to it. I didn't want to put this in here because it could have gotten quite long. It does require that malicious software be added to the computer to take advantage of that hardware exploit. So it is a threat, it is there, but it is highly dependent on what our patrons do on our services and on our computers. So the technology trends, I'm going to go through that really quickly. These are all things that I am seeing libraries in the state of South Dakota, but also industry-wide accepting and starting to integrate into their services, some much more rapidly as COVID continues to develop and move on. Wireless printing, I included that one because I'm actually getting questions daily about us offering wireless printing, and I think that that is especially important now that there is the possibility for virtual learning and moving to that hybridized educational environment. There are no costs. This is all just laying the groundwork so that we can figure out what you guys as a board think about our services, what we can do to fill those gaps as well. The computer booking and management system, that I have seen Watertown Regional Library adopt. Right now, if I were to go to their website and try to reserve a computer, I can actually see what they have in use, what is available, and be able to reserve a computer for whatever time of day that they are open. I don't know that theirs does include a wireless printing system, and that for us would help provide patrons the independence of being able to, prior to their visit, come in, go to our website, say, oh, I want to reserve a computer for this amount of time, being able to know that they can come at this time, but also for us, it would reduce the need for us to track on a spreadsheet, which with the age of our computers, they do have the tendency to go to sleep or shut down on us, and we lose those statistics. So this would provide us a much safer and more secure way to track our computer usage going forward. But it's also a system that would allow our patrons the independence to use their library card to sign on, start using our services, start using databases, and that's really where the field is moving, providing patrons with the power to do things independently of a staff member for certain things. Patron self-service, and I actually just added a note to myself today. There are countless new ways to integrate self-service in a library. Some of them I have seen to include checking out laptops, Chromebooks, tablets, and a library in Hartford, part of the Siouxland Library, is actually offering an extended access card. So patrons are able to register for a card to visit the library outside of staffed hours. And it's a system that integrates with the library management system. They swipe in, all of the normal library policies apply, and they can service themselves and go on their merry way. Now, at least that self-service option, I think that would be one that we could look at with a little bit more scrutiny, depending on where we would want to move. I think that is more of a 5-year item rather than right away. The next one, connected learning, is a bit of a hybrid between technology and a programming model. Pretty much what it does is it takes the social connectedness of a community, whether it be through social media or the connections that already exist outside of that, to help patrons capitalize on skill building. So like if we've got a patron that really, really wants to learn fashion design, we might be able to connect them with someone or a program or bring someone in to help them build those skills that they want. And the really other cool thing is we can pair it with like a makerspace and have them start learning coding or all of these other things. But the really important part of that programming model is it takes advantage of what's called homago, which is hanging out, messing around, and geeking out. And really it's about getting people into the building, interacting with each other, and interacting with something that they love and really want to do outside of a traditional classroom. And I included makerspaces next. They are probably one of my favorite things coming to libraries around the nation. When I was at Northern for 4 years, we had just started the process of getting a makerspace in the building and running, and the response was incredible. Granted, this is at a university, so the applications are a little bit different, but for a public library, the best thing that we could potentially do is survey our patrons to figure out what their wants and needs are and include things that reflect those wants and needs. So I've seen sewing machines, I've seen cookware included in maker spaces. Really the gamut of what we can include in a maker spaces depends on what our patrons want and our imagination, really. Virtual reality, or AR and VR, I don't remember which library it is in South Dakota, but they have started to offer VR headsets for patrons to check out. With this being probably about a recent, within the last 5 years, technology boom, it's something that libraries have really grasped onto because it's a unique technology that can place an individual in other environments. I don't remember, if you recall, several years back, Pokemon Go released on mobile. That's called an augmented reality, and there are plenty of applications. There are still events for that game going on worldwide, and it's something that individuals are really adopting into their main life because it's something that is growing, and it's something that we are probably going to be seeing much further down the line. And if we plan on offering modern technology to our patrons, we should be able to get that in their hands, especially for our patrons that are at a disadvantage to get that technology themselves. RFID, it's not particularly new. It's called radio frequency identification. I believe Siouxland Libraries uses this in all of their books, and it's quite a powerful tool when it comes to our collection and ensuring that we provide our patrons with the best possible items. So what it is it's just a small tag that goes into an item, and instead of checking things out with a barcode scanner, what you do is you place it down on a map, and it'll scan probably a good foot above where it's at. So you can place a good pile of books on an RFID scanner, and it'll check them all out at one time. And the applications for that are really limitless. We could inventory our collection in a matter of days instead of spending months doing it, because I have been spending months inventorying our collection. And believe me, it is not a fun process. And even with RFID, self-checkout options are available too. The only downside is it requires a library management system that is capable of interacting with it, and Atrium at the moment is not. So we would, if this is something that is on the roadmap for you guys, it would take a much more serious conversation to get us there. And I talked about the subscription services as well. Any questions?
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting list of things, and obviously you probably can't do them all at once.
No.
Would you be able to work out, based on your knowledge of what people are asking for, which of these would be the most interest to people's patrons?
I would say wireless printing and the computer booking would be arguably the top two.
So, where we plan to go with this, I mean, this is the start of our technology plan. This is more the report of where we are and possibilities. You know, the next stages are our inventory of what we have, so you can see the ages of a lot of those computers. So, you know, over the next month or two, we would plan to bring back to the board, you know, continue to work on this and work on the actual plan of where we want to go and what priorities we would set.
Yep.
Great.
It is, I appreciate that. It seems very comprehensive in that it inventories what we have, but also, you know, you're looking ahead to what do we need to,
Yeah.
you know, and I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
It's really good. City does something.
It has come out of the city budget, however, it did not get approved for the 2021 budget.
Well, possibly, because I know, you know, the first week or two that I was working, we had a computer that went down, and Andrew needs to come over, and I think he ordered a new hard drive for it or something to, you know, get it going again.
It was stated during the budget sessions that the city would like the trustees to invest on the computers maybe this next year or so, since our city budget is so tight and the trustees do have a larger account at the moment.
So traditionally, the city has replaced the computers that the patrons use at the library,
Yeah, all.
all of them. And this year, and have we, you know, been
IT
doing a few at a time?
IT has indicated that at least 2 need to be replaced.
Okay.
It's a line
Capital
item,
outlay, yeah. And I know in our 2020 library budget, there was $1,700 budgeted for equipment.
How much?
$1,700, which,
And
you
has
know,
that
would
been
only.
used or no?
That Kevin got a
Yeah.
new computer out of that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think one new computer they bought for me, but I think most of that is gone now. So, I mean, $1,700, you know, with a new, buying a computer that is going to be spec'd out, that will last a number of years, it's going to be in that $750 to $800 range. So,
Right.
$1,700 isn't going to replace many computers. And even if we wanted to be on a 5-year plan of replacement, or, you know, 6-year plan, I mean, that would have to be at least 3 computers a year, you know, that we.
For the
should
public use,
replace.
but, I mean,
Yeah, for the.
I'm
for
looking
the
at the
19,
general
yeah.
inventory, the staff has 8,
Right, so,
8,
you know,
9.
it's more than that.
Yeah.
Yes, we have 4 computers up at the front desk, because it's 2 at the main front desk. There's Jean's computer, my computer, Kevin's, Cindy's, Jean John's, and then we have a Latitude laptop that is not connected to our G drive.
That's, yeah.
Yep, that is staff computers.
Okay. So you've kind of got an inventory, you've kind of got a start in your
Yeah,
technology
so
plan.
again, we will,
And
you know,
so
we will be looking at this, and, I mean, that'll be part of the plan is, all right, what do we need to do? Do we need to be on a 5-year? I mean, obviously, if we have computers that are 2011 era computers,
well, I even see there's
we're
one
on
here
a
that
9-year or 10-year.
there's a 2007
Yes,
computer in the archives.
that is in the archives, and it is currently running our microfilm machine.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
it doesn't get heavy use.
Okay, so that,
So,
yeah. All right,
so, yeah,
so we'll
that
plan
will
on
be-
you coming back to us
Yeah.
next month with more detail and more,
Yep.
and possibly a request. Yeah, I think too, I mean, so that
Yeah.
we're, because we can't buy 19 computers in 1 year,
No.
you know. You wouldn't want to, because then
No.
they'd all, yeah. So, thank you, Zach.
Thank you.
So that was kind of just an informational thing. So we don't need to take any action on that. Are we done with that, Kevin?
Mhm.
Okay, so
Thank you.
moving on to the bylaws. I see you
And
made a few changes. They
This-
were,
Yeah, and I put this in as information and possible action because if you noticed on the very last page, Article 7, Section 3, The current bylaws state that any rule or resolution, no, actually, no, these, section 2, these bylaws may be amended by a simple majority of the members present, provided that the amendment was the current one says was state in the call for the meeting, which was mailed or emailed to the members at least 2 weeks before the meeting. And I did not send out the agenda 2 weeks before the meeting, so, but I'm putting these here. You could, per section 3, suspend those rules. I mean, there's a majority of you here, there's a quorum, so you could suspend, but I at least wanted to start the process. You know, Stephanie had said that, you know, we should update the bylaws. I want to move towards updating policies. There aren't that many policies published on the website. We need to, I think, develop additional policies for the library that are published so that our patrons know what to expect. But I wanted to start with the board bylaws. And so I guess I will let it up to you as a board to decide if you want to suspend the rules and change these now, or we can just discuss them and then we can bring them back at next month's meeting to actually vote on for it being, but per the bylaws, I would still have to have the agenda out 2 weeks before next month's meeting in order to
Is there,
do this by the bylaws.
yeah.
So I guess going through it, I'll just, on the first page, Articles 1, 2, and 3, Section 1 and 2, I didn't see anything that I thought needed to be changed. I will also say that, you know, the state library on their website has a section for public libraries and library boards of trustees, and they have kind of bylaw templates. And so some of these bylaws that we have, it's obvious that it came from that template, but there's some typos. And so starting with Section 3 of Article 3, I just updated that will to shall from the template, and the template had that phrase in there that the chairperson shall also certify all actions approved by the board. Although, you know, after I added that in and, you know, was thinking about it, I'm not quite certain, and, you know, maybe it would be good if Jim Taylor were still on the board at this point to tell us if that really is something necessary.
What does that mean? Certify all actions approved by the board.
That's a good question. I mean, after I thought about
It
it
makes
more,
that chairperson sound really important.
it does. But, I mean,
Well, that's not true, so.
you know, I think we could get by without it as well. I mean, so preside at all meetings, authorize calls or emails for special meetings, appoint all committees, and, you know. So
I guess my thinking is if we're not really clear what that means,
Yeah.
I would say let's not put it in.
yeah, I'm good with that too. And then the other thing that shall, I think, my English teachers here, I just didn't think that was necessary, because all of the other phrases just then begin, there's just one shall, and then each phrase begins with the verb. So shall preside, and then authorize, certify, generally perform, not performs, all duties. Do you agree with that? I'm sorry. Yeah, I was just trying to get parallel structure there. Okay, and then Section 5 then, that the was unnecessary, but board meetings, of all meetings, not just one board meeting. And then there was an and for the last phrase, just an and there.
Okay.
Article 4, Section 1, setting the time of the board meetings, and Deb emailed me and asked if this actually should have been updated to our time, and I debated whether or not, since that phrase is as such time is agreed to by the board, since the board had agreed to set a different time
Did that second Wednesday, Steve, you know where that came from originally? Okay.
It was my understanding that it was originally in there for like the second Tuesday at a certain time, and every time the board changes it, the bylaws have just been updated to reflect what the time was. So to me, it'd be my suggestion to just take out the library shall meet shall meet at
Oh.
the time agreed upon the board, and just get rid of the rest of it. So you have to update the bylaws every
And
single
it
time.
also should, yeah, I was gonna say, it also
Yeah.
should say at city council chambers, right, or whatever.
Yeah, to meet, oh, yeah.
Just shall meet, and they, it
At a time and location.
as long as
Yeah.
it can be recorded or whatever, we could meet at a special meeting someplace else, and
Okay,
we shouldn't have to change the
At
bylaws in order to
such
do that.
time and location
Right.
as agreed to by the board. I didn't see anything in section 2. Section 3 was actually the order of the meeting, what's included, and, this stuff, and they said this, this should certainly be changed. And so, roll call of members, approval of the previous meeting's minutes. I didn't think we needed to read them.
No.
We have a, yeah. I took out the communications and correspondence.
oh, I know.
Right. Well,
They've,
up in Article 3, Section 3, the chairperson, one of the chairperson's duties is to appoint all committees. I guess that could be changed to appoint task forces.
We have, actually,
or-
we have
Mhm.
had committees
Yeah.
with our prior director.
yep.
We had a committee.
I mean, I
of
would,
one or two people. So,
yeah, I mean, it would be probably more of a task force, a short-term committee,
Yeah.
not a permanent committee.
yeah.
You want to be
My,
on it?
my question, Kevin, is I remembered that Stephanie talked about the order of the agenda should match what the city rules are, and that unfinished business and new business wasn't right.
Yeah, I thought she said to me that the agenda order should match what's in the bylaws.
Right, it has to,
But
but
she wanted the bylaws to match,
That's what-
the city.
right.
So
Okay.
maybe we need
So
to,
then
maybe,
I'll
Kevin,
get
you need to
that.
look
Do
at
you
that.
have that, or should I just get that from her? Okay,
I thought we were getting rid of that.
okay. All right, so I'll get that from Stephanie.
So whatever the city is, just follow that,
Okay.
is what I would say,
If,
pretty much.
That's,
he changed that to 1.
yeah, but
It's the very last,
yeah,
yeah, we haven't got
yeah. Next, on the next page, under section 5, just the information about going into executive session, I just referenced the South Dakota codified law
that sounds right.
rather than, because what was here was missing, something from the current, so, yeah. And then under section 7, none of the other sections had a heading with a colon, so I just took that out. Library director and staff and committees. There you go, there. And so I didn't change Article 6 at all, and then Article 7, Section 2, the bylaws may be amended by a simple majority, provided that the amendment was stated. A D was needed there. In the call for the meeting, which was mailed or emailed to the members at least. I'm sorry, I don't think I would ever be able to I don't think that it would make sense to
It
send
wouldn't
the
make
agenda
sense.
out 2 weeks, and even 1 week before, because, yeah. I'm
Yeah,
okay
this
with
seems
that.
very cumbersome, the way section 2 and section 3.
Mhm.
and then and the mail would get there, and it's posted electronically, and I send an email out. So 40, is everybody okay with changing that to 48 hours?
when does our agenda need to be
The agenda is the 24 hours.
24 hours? Do we need to?
No.
Do we need to?
But this is just for bylaw amendments. Yeah.
Yeah. And I did get the agenda posted
Right.
Friday afternoon, so that was 48 hours before the meeting.
I think I think 24 is enough.
Well, I'm okay. I'll put 24 hours. I
Right.
mean, that which matches when the agenda needs to be posted.
Right, that's what I think. I don't think this is any different than the agenda, so,
Okay.
Part of the public notice timing,
yeah.
like we're trying to sneak past anybody.
Yeah. Okay, and then the
But he could, for the next meeting, to adjust these bylaws, he can post this part of the agenda 2 weeks in advance and then update the agenda after that within the 24 hours. So at least you get the 2 weeks in to match our current bylaw status
yeah.
and then change it for the next meeting.
And then the last one was section 3. What I inserted there in blue was missing, and this came from that state library template for, because it said, in connection with the business at hand, but which for the members, but such suspension to be valid may be taken only at a meeting at which. So I just, and then I changed that or was the typo too. That should be of.
Okay.
Shall be present in 2/3 of those present shall approve. So I'll get the information from Stephanie regarding kind of the order of business that
Yeah, the
city
agenda.
uses.
Order of business.
So then, yeah. So
Yeah.
then. So that's
Okay, so you're going to,
So
whatever
then there's
Jessica
no
said, that's
action.
circular thinking, I'm not really following, but as long as you know what she meant by posting 2 weeks in
Yeah.
the next, okay.
So then there's no
I'm not
action on this
following, but-
because it has to be updated yet again.
Okay,
What he'll do is he'll post the agenda 2 weeks in advance with this on it at least, and then he'll have to update the agenda 24 hours before. Yep.
gotcha.
Amend the agenda with everything else.
Okay. Okay, I got it. All right, so there's no action needed on that, correct?
Correct.
Okay, citizens input. Don't believe we have any. Board input. Thank you, Kevin, for a lot of detail in your reports this month. I certainly appreciate it. Anybody else? Oh, yeah, what are we? I don't have I didn't bring my phone in, so let me look that up. Yeah.
Yep. Third Tuesday.
So this is October 20th, 5 p.m. here. Okay, that will be the next meeting. All right. Yeah. We're all good? So the meeting is adjourned. There you go.
It's 6:15.